Today, we're discussing chemical peels and also the answers to last week's Guess What We Did. Christmas time is the perfect time to have a medium depth chemical peel, luxuriating in front of your log fire at home, your skin gently exfoliating like the snowflakes around you. It's really ideal to get rid of the brown spots and any sort of hyperpigmentation that you might have after the summer. So why would anyone choose to have a medium depth chemical peel? Well, as I just mentioned, it's because it helps to lift off any brown spots or hyperpigmentation that you might have. If you have any surface roughness to the skin, it will also help with that as well. And it just generally improves the texture and tone of the skin as well. Now, the peel that I have in front of me is a medium depth chemical peel, but there are superficial depth chemical peels as well, which are probably a little bit more popular. A superficial chemical peel will be something like lactic acid or glycolic acid, and you don't get active peeling with those. You might get some very, very mild exfoliation, but it's not anything heavy. Whereas with a medium depth chemical peel, expect your skin to come off in more like sheets. Now, I know that sounds quite grim, skin coming off in sheets, but it's not painful. It's more just like a snake when it sheds its skin. So you'll notice that it starts to lift off from around the mouth first, and then the exfoliation goes outwards towards the ear and up towards the hairline. Is it worth it? Well, I think it's definitely worth it. If you have got any sort of hyperpigmentation, having a peel can definitely help. And the perfect peel is quite interesting because it can be used on people of all Fitzpatrick types. So if you remember in the early videos, I mentioned that there's Fitzpatrick type 1 to 6. And somebody who's a 1, it references how quickly they might burn in the sun. So if you're a Fitzpatrick 1, it means that you burn very, very quickly, right the way through to somebody with darker skin who maybe doesn't burn at all when they're out in the sun. It's unusual to have a medium depth chemical peel that you can use on all Fitzpatrick types. Those who are a little bit darker, maybe a little bit more caramel or coffee coloured skin, you may want to do some prep first, which would be using something that turns off the pigment producing cells in the skin so that you can then harm it using a medium depth chemical peel. And the Perfect Peel range does have products in the range which cover that. So that would be using something like hydroquinone, for example, or something else which is a tyrosinase inhibitor. Getting my words mixed up there, tyrosinase inhibitor. So this particular peel, it's got its own proprietary blend of glutathione, which is a very, very hot ingredient right now, kojic acid, TCA, retinol, salicylic acid, phenol. The phenol is quite interesting because it means that it doesn't hurt when you put the peel on. If you've just had a plain TCA on its own, it's not the most pleasant of experiences. As in, it's really not the most pleasant of experiences, but if you have something with a tiny bit of phenol, it numbs the nerve endings. You can't really feel it, which is great. And also it contains vitamin C as well. With this particular peel, you look like you've been tangoed afterwards because it's a rather attractive orange colour. That gets washed off the next day. So if you are going to have a peel like this, I wouldn't plan to do anything in the evening. I would just have it done, go home, watch Netflix or something, and then the next day when you wash your face, you can wash the orange colour off. With this particular product, you get this rather attractive little box with it too, which contains inside, oh, it's falling out the bottom there, contains inside other bits that you need for the peel. So it comes with its own moisturiser and these two little sachets. These sachets contain retinol. So the way it works is in the clinic, you have the peel applied to the skin, and that's when you look like you've been tangoed. And then the next day, in the comfort and safety of your own home, you apply one of these little towelettes all over the face. They're kind of like the KFC towelettes, you know, the ones that after you've had your chicken, you you wipe your fingers with, they look a bit like that, but they're impregnated with retinol. And you get 2 of those, so you do one on day 1 and one on day 2. And also in here, there's a little aftercare instruction booklet as well. Now, the moisturiser that you get with the peel, I actually am not that much of a fan of. So let's just put that over there. It peel's great, but I just don't like the aftercare. So I tend to use this one, which is Derma Skin Moisturising Protector. I don't know what it is, but I found on myself that this one was a little bit irritating, whereas with the Derma one, not a problem at all. If you can't get your hands on this Derma, you could also use something like Bepanthen as an alternative. So how often would you be having a peel? Well, you'd probably do something like this maybe once every year, roughly, unless you're trying to treat a problem, like say you've got or you had acne on your chest or on the back, then you would probably do it more frequently than that. I recommend once a month for 3 months if there is hyperpigmentation and scarring, but it really does depend on a case-to-case scenario. Okay, so let's move on to our Christmas edition of Guess What We Did. We can see that in her before pictures, there's not really much definition in the cheek area here. You can see it's just kind of a little bit flat there. Now you may remember from some of the earlier videos that there is a point of the cheek which is supposed to be the highest. So there are lots of ways that you can measure where the highest point of the cheek is supposed to be, but one of the ways that I like to do it is by drawing a line from the tragus of the ear, which is, for all you non-piercers out there, it's this thing right there that sticks out from your ear, you know, that little bobbly bit there, to this part of the nose right there. So we draw this line like that, and then I use my calipers and I measure the distance in between the eyes like that. Do you remember the calipers that we used in the previous episodes? So you'll have a distance of 1 to 1.618 on the other side. So we measure this bit with the short caliper, and then we turn it over to the long bit, and we pop one arm of it here and swing one arm of it around like that. You know, like when you're using a compass when you're a kid at school, it's the same principle. And you can measure where it intersects this line, and that's where you want the highest point of your cheek to be, right there. That's the way that I prefer to measure where it should be. There are other ways. So you can, for example, take that line as I just mentioned to you, and then drop a line straight down from the lateral canthus of the eye, and then you kind of make a triangle like this, and where it bisects like that is supposed to be the highest point of the cheek. But I actually prefer using the first method. I think it's just a bit nicer, and it looks cool as well when you get the calipers out. Anyway, moving on from there. So you can see that she doesn't really have much lift and elevation in the cheek, and it's kind of in the wrong place. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. Actually, no, the first thing that we're going to do is do the Botox, because as you know, I like doing that first. The third thing then would be the chin. So you can see that she's got this crease across her chin. You see that right there? It just looks like it's slightly dished in, and the whole lower third of the face is rotating up like this, and it just gives the lower third a very, very short look. You can see that they're not all equal, so we need to open that out. And in the after pictures, she's just got a more sophisticated look, and that's because we've equalized her facial thirds. You know, they're much more equal to each other than they are in the pre-pictures, and that's because we've made her chin just that wee bit longer, and we've given her this lovely sophisticated look around the cheekbone area. So let's see how we did that. The first product that we're using here is Radiesse, which is not a hyaluronic acid filler. And the reason I'm using this here is because we need to get a lot of lift. She's got a lot of weight in the front part of the cheek, and we need to lift that up. So if we use the hyaluronic acid, I'd have to use quite a bit more to get the same result. Hence, we're using the Radiesse here. The second thing that we're doing is using the same product, and we're doing the jawline. Again, this is to give her some lift back and just relieves the jowling slightly. So when we're adding the volume here and here, you can see everything is being lifted up and back, and it's that gives a slightly more sophisticated look. Now we're changing product and we're going on to use the hyaluronic acid. So we're now doing the front portion of the cheek to give her some frontwards projection, some anterior projection. And then we're going to twist that round to add the volume underneath the base of the nose here. You know that's one of my favorite things to do, right? Now we're going to blend in the chin with the jawline a little bit more. You can see how there's a bit of a depression going from the angle of the jaw to the front part of the chin. It just goes in slightly. So we need to straighten that out. So I'm using a cannula here with some hyaluronic acid to just make that really lovely and straight and open up her face a bit more. And now we've done that, we're going to move on and augment the point of the chin, which is going to help make her lower facial third look a bit longer. And then the final thing that we're going to do is the chin crease. Again, this helps to make the lower facial third look a little bit longer. Okay, so that's it. Let's have a look at her after. This is her immediately after. You can see she can go straight out after the procedure was done, no problems there. That's something that a lot of people worry about. Am I going to be able to go shopping or whatever? But yeah, she can have dinner, she can go back to work, no problems there at all. Okay, so that's all we've got time for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Have a great Christmas. Hope you get everything that you asked Santa for. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe in the meantime. And if you've got any comments, please just write them below.